31 new items showed up at Dollar Tree this week, and I checked every single one of them in person, walking every aisle slowly enough to actually catch what most people would walk right past. I'm going through all 31 right now, fast, no long intro, because there's genuinely a lot to get through, and I don't want to waste a single minute of your time getting to it. Before we start, I want you to guess something, and I mean actually guess, not just keep scrolling. One of these 31 is something seniors specifically told me, more than once, in the comments on this very channel, that they thought was gone for good, discontinued years ago at basically every store that used to carry it, the kind of item you stop even looking for after enough disappointing trips. Guess what you think it is right now, in the comments, before you hear any of the others, because the answer is coming near the end, and I promise it's going to surprise you, maybe even more than it surprised me. I want to be upfront about something before we dive in. This isn't a highlight reel of the 3 or 4 flashiest items I found. This is genuinely all 31, including the small, unglamorous ones that never make it into a typical haul video, because I know a lot of you have told me directly that you'd rather see everything and decide for yourselves what's actually useful, rather than have me quietly skip past something just because it isn't exciting enough to feature. So stick with me through this whole list, because I promise there's something in here for nearly everyone watching, whether that's your kitchen, your bathroom, your reading chair, or your garden. I also want to say this clearly at the start, because I think it matters. A lot of channels covering this store tend to focus entirely on what's flashy or trending, the kind of item that photographs well, but doesn't actually solve a real, everyday problem. That's not what this channel is about, and it's genuinely not what most of you have told me you're here for either. Nearly every single item on this list exists because it makes some small, specific part of your day a little easier, a little safer, or a little more comfortable, not because it's exciting to film. If that's the kind of coverage that's actually useful to you, you're exactly who I made this video for, and I'd genuinely rather have a smaller audience of people this actually helps than a bigger one chasing trends that don't matter in 6 months, the kind of trust that takes a lot longer to build but is worth far more once it's there. Item 1. A magnetic large print calendar notepad that sticks right to the fridge, oversized squares for each day, easily legible from across the kitchen without needing to lean in close or grab your glasses first. $2, compared to $6 to $9 for a similar large print magnetic calendar at an office supply store. Having a shared calendar everyone in the house can actually read at a glance, appointments, birthdays, reminders, genuinely cuts down on the number of things that quietly slip through the cracks during a busy week. Item 2. A cordless mini fan small enough to clip onto a purse strap, a walker, or a bag handle, running on a rechargeable battery for a quick cool-down wherever you happen to be. $1.25, while a comparable clip-on fan at an electronics store runs $8 to $12. For anyone who gets uncomfortably warm running errands, especially during the hotter months, having a little relief clipped right where you can reach it, without digging through a bag, is a small comfort that genuinely adds up. Item 3. A non-slip bath mat with actual drain holes built in, so it doesn't stay soggy underfoot the way a solid mat tends to. $2, compared to $10 to $15 for a similar drainage-style mat at a bed and bath store. Stepping onto a mat that's still damp from the last shower is a small daily annoyance, and one that also happens to be a genuine slip risk, so solving both problems at once for $2 is worth grabbing immediately. Item 4. A wide-tooth detangling comb with a genuinely cushioned handle, easier to grip than a standard thin-handled comb, especially for first thing in the morning when your hands haven't fully warmed up yet. $1.25, while a comparable cushioned comb at a beauty supply store runs $6 to $9. A wider grip matters more than people expect once you're actually holding it for a few minutes working through a tangle. Item 5. A bookmark that doubles as both a magnifier and a ruler, handy for reading fine print mid-page without needing a separate handheld magnifier sitting somewhere else entirely. $1.25, compared to $5 to $8 for a similar combination bookmark at a specialty store. It slides right into whatever you're reading, so the magnifier is always exactly where you left off instead of buried in a drawer. Item 6. A reusable insulated coffee sleeve that slips over any standard cup, keeping your hand comfortable around a hot drink rather than needing to hold it awkwardly by the rim to avoid the heat. $1.25, while a comparable reusable sleeve at a kitchen store runs $5 to $8. It genuinely fits most standard mugs and to-go cups, So one sleeve covers nearly everything you'd reach for on a normal morning. Item 7. A cordless USB reading light bar that clips onto a headboard, a shelf, or the arm of a chair, casting a wide, even glow across a full page rather than a single narrow beam that leaves half the text in shadow. $2, compared to $12 to $18 for a similar reading light bar at a home goods store. Reading in bed without disturbing anyone else in the room becomes genuinely comfortable once the light is actually wide enough to cover the whole page evenly. Aptonip 8. Wide grip garden scissors, with a genuinely oversized handle, easier on the hand than standard shears during a longer session trimming or deadheading in the garden. $2, while a comparable ergonomic pair at a garden center runs $10 to $15. If gardening is something you genuinely enjoy, but standard tool handles have started working against you, this alone is worth the trip. We're 8 items in, 23 to go. And if any of these have already caught your eye, drop a comment letting me know which one, because I'm genuinely curious which of these 31 actually lands with people once the video's done, and I read every single comment on these videos personally. If you're the type who likes to comment your favorite as you go, rather than waiting until the end, this is exactly the moment to do it. Before you forget which one it was by the time we get to number 31, item 9, non-slip shower shoes with textured rubber soles, genuinely gripping wet tile rather than sliding the way a smooth-soled sandal tends to the moment water hits it. $2. For anyone who's ever felt that split-second slide underfoot in a shower and had their heart jump, this is exactly the kind of $2 item that quietly prevents a much bigger problem. Item 10. A soft padded sleeve for a TV remote, cushioning it against drops and making it genuinely easier to hold onto than the bare plastic case it usually comes in. $1.25. Remotes get dropped constantly off the arm of a chair, out of a lap, and a padded sleeve means one less thing to worry about replacing after an accidental fall onto a hard floor. 11. A cordless mini humidifier stick that sits directly in a glass of water, putting out a light mist for a few hours. No tank to fill or cord to find an outlet for. $2. Perfect for a nightstand or a desk where a full-size humidifier would genuinely be more than you need. Item 12. A wide-mouth travel water bottle with a built-in straw, easier to sip from without tilting your head all the way back the way a standard narrow bottle requires. $2. Staying hydrated matters at every age, and removing even a small physical barrier to doing it easily genuinely makes a difference over the course of a day. Item 13. Clear sleeve protectors, sized specifically for large print recipe cards, keeping them clean and splatter-free while you actually cook from them. $1.25. A recipe card that survives cooking without getting stained or smudged is one you can actually keep and pass down, rather than rewriting from memory every few years. Item 14. Cordless heated slipper socks, battery-powered warmth built into the sole running for a solid stretch on a single charge. $3. Cold feet are one of those small discomforts that quietly follow you around a whole house all evening, and having genuine adjustable warmth built right into a sock solves that without needing a heating pad or an extra blanket at your feet. Item 15. A non-slip stair tread rug, a short strip of carpet with rubber backing that grips a single stair step, the kind you can line up down an entire staircase for real, consistent traction. $1.25 each. Stairs are one of the most common places for a fall to happen at home, and a few dollars spent lining the edges of each step is genuinely one of the best value safety upgrades on this entire list. Item 16. A wide grip letter opener, oversized handle, genuinely easier to hold and control than a standard thin one that tends to twist in your hand mid-cut. $1.25. If you get real mail regularly, bills, cards, letters from family, this is a small daily tool that's easy to overlook until you actually try the better version. 17. A large print wall calendar with genuinely oversized daily squares, easy to read from clear across a kitchen without walking right up to it. $2. Between the fridge notepad from item 1 and a wall calendar like this, you've got 2 different complementary ways to keep track of a busy week without either one feeling cluttered. Item 18. A cordless mini travel iron. Small enough to pack in a suitcase, still hot enough to actually smooth out real wrinkles rather than just warming the fabric. $2.50. For anyone visiting family, traveling to see grandkids, or just needing a quick touch-up before heading out the door, this earns its spot in a bag far more than a bulky full-size iron ever would at 19. A cushioned, non-slip kitchen mat for standing at the sink or stove, taking real pressure off your feet and lower back during longer stretches of cooking or dishwashing. $2. If you spend real time on your feet in the kitchen, this is one of those upgrades that your body notices almost immediately. Item 20. A wide zipper pull attached to a small key fob clip, giving you a bigger, easier grip on a jacket or bag zipper, especially useful once cold weather stiffens up your fingers. $1.25. Small, cheap, and genuinely solves a specific daily frustration that most people never think to look for a fix for. We're 2/3 through this list now, 20 down, 11 to go, and the item everyone's been asking about, the one people thought was gone for good, is coming up in just a few more. So if you've made it this far, stay with me, because I genuinely think it's worth the wait. And honestly, if you skip ahead now, you'll miss the setup that makes finding it feel as good as it did for me. Element 21. A roll of large print address labels, pre-formatted with bold, easy-to-read text, ready to peel and stick onto envelopes without handwriting your return address every single time. $1.25. For anyone who mails cards, bills, or letters regularly, this quietly saves real time and effort over the course of a month. Element 22. A cordless mini clothes steamer, small enough to hold comfortably in one hand, genuinely capable of smoothing out a shirt or a dress without setting up a full ironing board. $3. Faster, lighter, and honestly easier on the wrist than wrestling with a heavy iron for a quick touch-up before heading out. Item 23. A roll of non-slip drawer liner, textured rubber backing that keeps dishes, glasses, and utensils from sliding around every time you open a drawer or cabinet. $1.25. A quiet, practical fix for that annoying rattle and shift you hear every time a drawer opens too quickly. Item 24. A small spinning rack, designed specifically to hold large print recipe cards upright and organized on a counter, letting you flip through a whole collection without shuffling loose cards around. $2. Pairs perfectly with those sleeve protectors from item 13. If you're building out a real recipe collection worth keeping organized. Item 25. A wide-ruled writing pad with extra thick lines and sturdy, less flimsy paper, easier to write on than a standard thin notepad that tends to bleed through or tear under real pressure. $1.25. If handwriting has become something you do less often simply because standard paper feels frustrating to write on, this alone might bring it back. Item 26. A small, cordless portable phone charger stick, slim enough to fit in a pocket or a bag, genuinely enough to top off a phone when you're out and the battery starts dropping faster than you'd like. $2.50. Peace of mind that fits in a coat pocket, especially useful if you rely on your phone for calls to family or a doctor's office while you're out running errands. Item 27. A thin, non-slip stretching mat, rolled compactly, useful for light floor exercises, stretching, or simple balance work recommended by a physical therapist. $2. Doesn't take up real storage space the way a thicker exercise mat would, so it's easy to actually keep somewhere accessible, rather than shoved in the back of a closet where it never gets used. And now, item 28. The one seniors told me they thought was gone for good, the one I asked you to guess earlier, so let me know in the comments whether you got it right. I want to be honest, this one took me by surprise too, because it's not something I expected to find on this particular trip at all, and I actually walked right past it once, before circling back when something about the shelf tag caught my eye. A genuinely large button corded landline phone, styled with a classic simple design, oversized numbers, and an extra loud ringer, the exact kind of phone that used to sit on kitchen counters everywhere before cell phones took over, and this style quietly disappeared from most store shelves entirely. $3. While a comparable large button corded phone at an electronics or specialty store runs $25 to $40. I want to sit with this one for a minute, because it's genuinely different from everything else on this list. Multiple people specifically told me this exact style of phone had become genuinely difficult to find anywhere, since most phone sections these days are entirely cordless and cell-focused, leaving almost nothing for anyone who specifically wants a simple, reliable, plug-in phone with big readable buttons and no complicated setup involved. One comment that stuck with me described going to 3 different stores over the course of a month, looking for exactly this. Coming home empty-handed every single time, and eventually just giving up and living with a phone that was genuinely hard to see and hear clearly. There's something about a corded phone, specifically, that a cordless one just doesn't replace. No charging cradle to remember, no battery to die at the worst possible moment, no pairing or setup screens to navigate. You plug it into the wall once, and it simply works, every single time for years, the exact kind of dependable simplicity that a lot of newer technology quietly stopped offering somewhere along the way. I think that's really what this item represents, more than just a phone. It's a small pushback against the assumption that newer automatically means better, that everyone wants a screen, an app, a setup wizard, when what a lot of people genuinely want is something that just works, exactly the same way, every single day, without asking anything extra of you. For anyone who's ever struggled reading tiny numbers on a cordless handset, or wanted a phone that simply works without a manual, this one genuinely solves that, and I understand now, seeing it in person, exactly why people were specifically asking about it. The ringer volume is genuinely loud, adjustable if it's too much for a quiet room, and the buttons themselves are large enough to press accurately without needing to look closely first. The kind of design choice that respects how you actually want to use a phone, rather than assuming everyone wants smaller and more complicated. And there's a real independence in that too, being able to dial a number confidently on your own, without needing someone else to set it up, program it, or explain how it works every single time you have a question. If you've been holding on to an old worn-out version of this phone for years, specifically because you couldn't find a replacement anywhere, this is genuinely worth a trip on its own, even if you don't need a single other thing on this entire list. Uptom 29. A pair of wide-grip ergonomic scissors, comfortable oversized finger loops, genuinely easier to use than a standard pair for anyone dealing with stiffness or reduced grip strength. $1.25. A small tool you probably reach for more often than you'd think, opening packages, cutting coupons, trimming a recipe out of a magazine. Item 30. A set of large print recipe magnet clips, holding a card or a piece of paper flat against the fridge at eye level, so you're not squinting down at a counter while your hands are busy cooking. $1.25. A small final touch that ties together a few of the kitchen items already on this list. And item 31, closing out this list, a cordless mini handheld vacuum, small enough for quick spills and crumbs without dragging out a full-size vacuum for something that takes 30 seconds to clean up. $3. The kind of item that sits charging in a kitchen drawer and gets used far more often than you'd expect once it's actually there. So there's all 31, everything new, I found on this single trip, walked, checked, and priced in person, nothing skipped, nothing rushed past just to fit more into a shorter video. I want to be honest that availability can vary by location, so if your store doesn't have every single one of these yet, it's worth checking back, since new arrivals like this don't always land at every location on exactly the same schedule, and a store that's missing something today might have it fully stocked within a week or two. Personally, that corded phone is the one that surprised me the most on this entire trip, simply because I hadn't fully appreciated how much that specific style had actually disappeared from stores until multiple people told me directly they'd been looking for something exactly like it for months, sometimes longer. It's a good reminder that the things worth the most aren't always the flashiest or most modern. Sometimes it's genuinely the simple, dependable version of something that mattered most, quietly missing from shelves until someone finally brings it back. And I think that's a lesson worth carrying well beyond just this one video. Now I want to ask you directly for something, because finding 31 new items in a single trip and checking each one carefully, in person, one by one, takes real time, real walking, and real attention. And that's exactly the kind of thorough coverage I want to keep bringing you every single week, rather than a quick, half-checked highlight reel. If a full, honest walkthrough like this is useful to you, hit subscribe right now, because keeping up with every single new arrival, not just the obvious highlights, takes consistent, regular store visits, week after week, and that only stays worth doing if this channel keeps growing alongside the people actually watching it. I know a lot of you have said in the past that you don't usually subscribe to channels, and I understand that, but I genuinely ask you to make an exception here, not for my sake, but because subscribing is what tells me which of these videos are actually worth continuing to make, week after week, rather than guessing. Hit like on your way out as well. It genuinely helps more people find a video like this, especially anyone who might be specifically searching for something like that corded phone right now, the same way those original commenters were, sitting at home wondering if it even still exists anywhere. A like takes less than a second, but it's the single biggest signal that tells this video to keep showing up in front of people who genuinely need to see it, people who might not even know to search for it directly. And I want to hear from you directly in the comments. Tell me which of these 31 you're most excited to grab. And be honest about whether your guess for that corded phone was anywhere close to right, because I'm genuinely curious how many of you saw it coming versus how many were as surprised as I was. I read every single comment on these videos myself, not a team, not an assistant, me. And a lot of what ends up in future videos starts as exactly this kind of comment, someone mentioning a specific item they've been hunting for, that I then go check on myself the next time I'm in store. If you know someone, a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, who's been specifically looking for a simple, large button phone like that one, or who could use any of these 31 items in their own home, send this video their way directly, not later, today, because it turns out that exact search has been more common than I ever realized before making this trip. Think about it for a second. Someone in your life has probably mentioned exactly this kind of frustration before, wishing they could find something simple that just works, and this video might be the answer they didn't know to go looking for. A comment left months ago by one person led directly to this discovery for everyone watching now, and that's genuinely how this channel works best, you telling me what you need, and me actually going out and checking for it in person rather than guessing from behind a desk. Thanks for sticking with me through the whole list, all 31 items, no shortcuts, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully, with your next request already checked off, before I even start filming.